Oh dear, how to begin? Where do I begin?
Where do I begin? Begin at the beginning.
Where to begin?
Go to the end, and then stop.
In the beginning was the word Chinwag.
That's right.
And then there was light.
We're a lot like the Bible, spreading the good news about the weird.
Okay.
Yes. We're the weirdness
that's
Bible.
True.
The Chinwag.
We're the Bible of weirdness, the Old and New Testament. Yes, spreading the good news, the weird good news. Wow, I like that.
Gospel
That's
of
nice.
Chinwag.
The Gospel of Chinwag. Huh, like a kind of, like a hidden gospel. That's fascinating. That's interesting, the whole like Gnostic stuff. We should do, that would be an interesting thing.
That would be a great topic. Like what are the early forms of like Judaism, Christianity, like this hidden traditions. The hidden traditions.
Yeah, because there's all that weird stuff where it's like whole other gospels of like Judas. Like Judas there's a gospel of Judas, isn't there?
And Thomas and Book of Enoch, all these things that aren't like in the normal Bible,
And there's lots of different kind of biographical info about Jesus and stuff in there, I think. It's like super interesting.
And then there's like there's all this sort of like commentary. Like there's almost like this elaborate rabbinical literature too of people trying to decode and interpret the Bible. That stuff's fascinating too.
Yeah, because it's all seen as like a big code and stuff like that. I guess that's the Da Vinci Code, isn't it?
That's what we're saying, yes.
Is that what a lot of that? Yeah, so basically, it always comes back to that. It always comes back to the Da Vinci Code. I mean, because it is that sort of thing, right? All that kind of like.
But also like there's stuff too like you remember like Noah makes the ark and then they crash the ark at the end and everything's good and he gets wasted drunk.
Yeah.
And then like his sons see him naked. And I remember there's like 5 different interpretations of what does it mean? His nakedness.
What does that mean?
Yeah. What does that mean? Yeah.
Well, that was the thing I was saying the other day. I was talking about how I think when you were mocking me about this.
No.
When Moses goes to Mount Sinai and he gets the 10 Commandments, I guess it's, I think it's Moses, and the voice well, no, I can't. Now I'm getting it all screwed up. But I think it's Moses who, when he sees God, he only sees God from the back.
Oh yeah,
he sees the back part of God.
That was interesting,
and it's really strange. And it's like, what does it mean? And like, what does that mean? Why does it say he sees the backside of God? And the whole thing with, I think it's Jacob wrestles that angel in the desert. And it's like, why does he do that? It's all like super strange and interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit that happens that doesn't make sense on the face of it. Like you need to sort of interpret it somehow.
Yeah, it's cool. It's kind of mysterious.
Like the Book of Job is like that. It is not obvious.
Really? Because it's just so like, what is happening here?
I mean, like you're told a certain version.
What's the purpose to it?
Yeah. What's the purpose? And they're like, oh, Job, he never complains. He's super patient. And then you read it and you're like, he's complaining the whole time. What are you talking about?
Is he? Really? I guess he does. He's sort of lamenting and all those guys come in to comfort him.
I love the Bible. It's really so much stranger than people think.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff in it for sure. Well, we should maybe, do something sometime about
a Bible
that.
episode.
But right now, here we are. We have a nice episode today. Very entertaining.
Yeah, very nice.
Very good
really
stuff
cool.
coming up. But before we get to that, we definitely, I think, Steve and I want to thank our Chinwag community for all the enthusiasm and support.
Yes.
It's been an amazing thing.
It has been fun to see it grow.
Yeah, and it's great when we go to the live shows and we actually see people, and it's like, it's really awesome. The thing is just, it's growing, folks.
It's growing. It's alive and it's growing.
Yeah, it's alive. And it's, so I think we were thinking, we were going to, here's a little to help us keep growing. We thought we'd issue just a simple challenge, Chinwag challenge, which is to you, the dear listeners, is to take this episode, any of your favorite episodes, and text it around to other people, like-minded people, even people you don't think are like-minded. Give it to
try
them.
To convert them to the Chinwag.
Yeah, try to convert them. Yeah, but just send it out there and keep it growing and keep it out in the world. I think that'd be nice.
Yeah, it's fun. Like you can, I was looking the other day and I don't know what the actual number is, but if you put like our weekly releases and the sort of bonuses, it's got like 50 or 60 episodes or something are out there. And so if the listener,
it's a ton.
Yeah. If you guys are listening to something, you really like it, just hit, copy it and send it to a friend of yours as a text. It really helps sort of spread the word.
Yep.
The good news.
It'd be like a chain letter. Remember chain letters? Do you remember chain letters?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember that? And now that whole concept, I wonder if people still do chain letters.
Online versions, I think. They do online versions of them, don't they?
But do you think that, well, I suppose so. But that doesn't seem anywhere near as entertaining as the actual like snail mail.
I agree.
Like getting the letter. And I always remember that it was really kind of menacing. As a kid, there were all sorts of urban legends about totally. Right. There were lots of really creepy, like, wow, maybe we should do a horror movie called Chain Letter. And it should just be, I mean, I'm surprised. I wonder if anybody ever did that.
Probably.
That's what you start. People actually are getting mail that tells them, like, send this on.
I think my mom was really into them, like in the 70s or in the 80s or something. And
that's when I remember them being a big thing, as the 70s, was when we were little kids, sort of like moving through the 70s.
And if you didn't
80s,
pass it along, there was this sense that something ominous was going to happen
something
to you.
Menacing. They were really menacing. And they were kind of, you'd get one and it was kind of creepy. It was always like a real kind of
them,
like looking.
I
don't know. I mean, it's the same thing as it's like a meme or something.
Yeah,
I guess it's like
meme.
this kind of weird, it was this weird attempt to kind of hook. I don't know,
and force you to make it travel around. Well, that's what we're going to do, people, listeners.
Exactly.
That's what
Chinwag
you need to send this on, or you will die a horrible death.
That's what you do. Challenge your friends to listen, because if they don't.
They're all
that's
dead.
it for them. Exactly. But please help us out and build the community. But it would be very nice. It'd be great. It's a good thing. God, that's funny. I haven't thought of chain letters in a long time.
Me neither.
And also, as always, keep with the comments and the ratings.
Yes, please. It's really fun.
And also
letters.
Questions and letters are amazing.
Yeah.
The letters are amazing.
We're reading more of these.
We're going to read more of these because they're just amazing down in the Chinwag mailroom. All right. On to this astonishing guest we have today. Wonderful guest.
Yeah, he's awesome.
We have today. He is a very talented actor of feature films and television. He's a very talented guy in general. I've known this man for a long time. In no particular order, you know him from Mulholland Drive, The Leftovers, American Psycho, White House Plumbers, in which he plays G. Gordon Liddy, amazingly. The Mosquito Coast, Charlie's Angels, Full Throttle. John Adams. I acted with him in John Adams.
Wait, who was he in John Adams?
He was John Hancock.
Oh, fantastic.
He's John Hancock. Yep, he's John Hancock. The Lego Ninjago movie. This guy has done it all. He's a producer, director, screenwriter. He co-wrote 2 films, Tropic Thunder and Iron Man 2.
Oh, so good.
Amazing. He'll next be appearing in the upcoming Beetlejuice movie, which is the long-awaited sequel to Beetlejuice. Of course, I'm thrilled to have him here. Please welcome an old buddy of mine, Justin Theroux, to the Chinwag. There he is. Hello, Justin Theroux. Oh, my goodness.
Welcome,
man.
Justin, to the Chinwag.
Hey,
welcome to the Chinwag, Justin.
Thanks.
Holy cow.
I got my cup of coffee.
Look at you. You're all set to go. Justin.
You look like you're in a Japanese hotel.
I'm not. I'm in some...
Yeah, you look like you're in Kyoto. You're in Kyoto somewhere. Where are you?
Kyoto. I'm in Kyoto.
Where are you? Where do we find you?
You find me in Los Angeles in one of those transplant houses when you're out here doing a little work, and
yes,
and a house pops up, and
yes,
so it's homey, but it's not my homey,
Yes. Did you ever stay in one of those Oakwood places when you went out there when you first went out there?
I stayed in one. Absolutely. I think everyone does, don't they? I stayed in one I was a PA out here. That was my first trip to LA, really. And I was a production assistant on something or for a company. I stayed in the Oakwoods, and I remember I stayed there because you could pay cash. Like you could pay, I think, weekly and in cash.
That's right.
What is Oakwoods?
I don't know if they're a sponsor on the show, but they're wonderful.
They will be now.
Temporary living. Or you want to pause and just do a break for them?
Yeah, really. Right.
You guys are reading your own ads, right?
Paul Giamatti here for Oakwood. Yeah,
we're plugging them way more than they deserve.
The reading the ad, we really are. Reading the ads is actually very fun. It's strangely fun because it feels like old time radio. Where they would take a break and it'd be like,
Chesterfields.
Yeah, they'd be like, friends, do you like a smooth smoke? Yeah, totally right.
Do you suffer from sore throats and chest pains? Try Chesterfield.
Exactly. Relaxes the throat, that kind of thing.
Relaxes the throat.
Sorry, now tell Steve what the Oakwood is, just so we can
The Oakwoods are these sort of, when I was there, I think they were there was a lot of sort of gangs that I think lived there, at least in the Los Angeles area. Because again, it was a cash in hand place. So you could do nefarious things there. And, you didn't have to have a credit card, which is why I was there, because I didn't have a credit card and I didn't have a checking account. So you could sort of you cash your check and then you could just pay your rent and thing. And I lived there with a friend of mine from college. And we had a Murphy bed that we'd pull out every night and sleep on. And I remember actually, of note, when I moved in, there had been a gang-style execution murder.
Oh my God!
Several doors down, and I remember there was like yellow tape up, and I was like, "What happened over there?" And they're like, "Oh, they made some guy get on his knees and shot him in the head." I was like,
"Holy God!"
Yes,
what? Yes. I think that was extreme. And again, I don't want to get sued by Oakwood.
No, we don't. Listen, Oakwood's fantastic. We want to remind everebody that Oakwood
was fantastic.
Also,
alleged execution-style shooting.
They're the place that when you were first going out to LA to do things like small jobs or whatever, you'd get put in this place because it was cheap and easy. It was
cheap and easy, and it was close to I guess
studios,
Universal Studios,
Warner Brothers, and there were ones near studios and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's the kind of thing where you could sort of take a cab from there to whatever you were actually going to.
And frequently they were sketchy, and frequently, yes, there was gang activity, and you'd often see sort of mothers with their children out there trying to get their kids like movie careers going. There would be mothers
That's
from
exactly
sort of
right.
with their
people
children
from the Midwest who came out there sort of like, well, we're taking school off this year.
Exactly. And then frequently there would be a guy in his sweatpants with his keys kind of wandering around. There were a lot of kind of guys who just left their wives hanging out there. There were lots of you know what I mean? There was a lot of that and stuff like that. But I will say my fondest memory of the Oakwood was it was the first time I ever heard coyotes making their cry was in the Oakwood. Because there's a lot of, which is horrifying.
Yeah.
And I remembered hearing it one night. Now, have you ever heard like a pack of coyotes?
I feel like I have.
You must have.
They feel, it's hyena-like, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
It curdles the blood.
Yeah.
Well,
I actually sorry, go ahead. Finish
No,
your thought.
Go.
I was just going to say, I just got back from Runyon Canyon where I was doing a hike, and I just saw a rattlesnake, literally like 20 minutes ago. Yeah.
Runyon Canyon,
because it smells so bad. But it's there was a rattlesnake there, and I had never seen I had seen a baby rattlesnake hiking once here, and this rattlesnake was like very black. It wasn't like how I imagined it, and it was very well camouflaged in this black brush, but it was doing the thing.
Did you hear the rattle?
I did. I saw some people that were like taking a picture or something. I was like, "What's that?" And they're like, "It's a rattlesnake." And snakes are one of my probably top 10 fears, like,
really,
or maybe up one or two aside from death. It's snakes. Like I can teleport when I see them. Like my body just lunges in sideways. I can do whatever.
A snake, death by snake is like, that's it for you. That's what's going to happen.
It's not death by snake. I think it's just the idea of getting bit by a snake. They are horrifying creatures.
Yeah, they're bad. A woman I know was bit by a baby rattlesnake, and they are way worse.
Yes.
Yeah. Like,
why?
And she didn't know because I guess they're
Tag
more.
Me in, you're going to be smart in a minute.
No, dig in here. I don't want to be pointy headed. Go for it, man.
Apparently, two things. One is, their venom is is baby fresh. Told you I'm going to be smart. Okay. But they have very little control. Like an adult viper or snake sort of can sort of knows exactly how much venom to release in order to neutralize their prey. A baby rattle. This is what I hear. I mean, around the canyons, a baby snake
from your herpetologist friends in the canyon.
Herpetology. Yeah, and apparently they have very sort of little venom control, so they squirt it all into you, and it's
fascinating.
I don't know if it's more toxic. You're going to get letters.
It's like premature ejaculation.
Oh, dear. Oh, boy.
It is. It's kind of young guy syndrome,
That's great.
Oh, boy. Wow. I've never heard of young guy syndrome. Is that a thing? Is it technically
I'm making up young snake syndrome.
Did you just coin that? That's amazing.
Oh, yeah. Paul's never had this problem. He doesn't know
No,
what
I never have.
About.
I wouldn't know what anybody's talking about. I know how to release my venom. I'm perfectly in control of my man venom. But
and I always release way too much.
Wait a second. This has already gotten way out of hand. I like to go back to the coyotes. It was the first time I heard coyotes, and I thought it was either a pack of parrots or like birds, because it's kind of it was like parrots. Or I thought there's a gang of feral children outside the Oakwood, like feral children out there, because it sounded like children sort of screaming. But then somebody told me afterwards it was coyotes.
It's kind of like everything in LA. I mean, like, for example, my rattlesnake today, which I was not expecting to be sort of a dark black tarry color. The first time you see a coyote, you're like, that's a coyote? It looks sort of just like a a very skinny, small dog,
Yes.
Oh, that doesn't, I was imagining something that, looked like it,
much more impressive.
Some sort of like a wolf, or something bigger.
Something much more impressive.
I've seen them trotting down the street in Chicago where I live. They'll like be just late at night. They'll be just cruising underneath the L tracks, like out in
post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, it's really
Super
it really has a strange feel to it. You're like, oh my God.
But the coyote population's out of control, I think, isn't it? Because I don't know why, but the predators, I don't know, but they're
feeding
way more
on dogs, little purse dogs.
Well, they have them in little purse dogs. They have them in Central Park now. I mean, there's like a couple of them.
Coyotes?
Yes.
I have not heard that, but
do you think I'm lying? Do you think I'm lying?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not gonna fact check you.
No, literally,
in real time. I believe that.
There were a couple that were just caught on film recently. No, they're all over the place now.
And I saw a bobcat outside of this house that I'm, in more
Really?
LA wildlife. Yeah, bobcat came by.
Well, that's the weird thing about like LA is the proximity of all that stuff. It's like right there. It's like Florida. When you go to Florida, you're just like
Florida's a whole different thing.
I mean, for many reasons. But I did a job once in Florida. I was in some.
We did a job in Florida.
Did we? You and oh yes, we did.
One that I wrote.
What was it?
That's right. We did a job in Miami. We were in Miami.
That's right, in Miami. Yeah.
What was the job?
It was don't tell me, or no, tell me. It was you were acting it. I was writing on it.
Rock of Ages.
Rock of Ages.
It's called Rock of Ages.
That's correct. Yes.
And Justin was writing in it, and I was in it. And that's the movie where I had to work with a baboon in the movie. I think I've maybe talked about this. And there was a baboon, and I had to do a lot of acting with the baboon. And the baboon was afraid of me, because the first time I met the baboon, they just had me come in and do the scene. And of course I was screaming, because that's, it was like,
it's your bread and butter.
It's my bread and butter. I come charging into the room screaming, and that was it. It traumatized this male baboon, and he wouldn't come near me after that.
Are they strong? They could like rip your face off, right?
They didn't think to do any kind of introduction or
No, it was really stupid.
That seems like a rookie move.
Yes, it was a rookie move. And then they tried to retroactively sort of introduce me to, so they would take me to a quiet little room, not unlike the hotel room you're in right now, Justin, but nice sort of pillows and stuff. And they would try to have me make friends with the baboon, offer him a grape, offer him something, and try to talk to him in a sweet voice and stuff.
Then, oh, it's so horrible.
And then it's totally horrible.
I'll never work with animals.
Have you never done it?
No, I've done work. I worked with animals. I hate working with animals, and I don't.
Really?
Yeah, I'm actually kind of a big anti it. I throw little tantrums when I think it's just cruel to them.
I agree. I don't disagree.
You're a dog person, right, Justin?
Very much a dog person. Yeah.
Instagram, you have a dog, like a pitbull or something, maybe.
Yeah, I have a pitbull. She's sitting right here.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Oh, awesome.
You want to come say hi?
Now, Justin and I have known each other for almost 30 years. I don't think quite 30 years, like pretty close.
Yeah,
right?
That's correct. We used to be right around the corner from each other on the Bowery.
That's right.
I was on Bleecker, you were on Bowery.
Correct. And you had a great dog then. This is obviously not the same dog.
No, I've had many pit bulls. I had a dog named Lulu and a dog named Puma.
Lulu, that was
Lulu.
it.
Yeah, she was a Weimaraner pit mix, and then a little white pit bull named Puma.
And they're rescues, right?
Both rescues, yeah. Yeah, always rescues, yeah.
Yeah, they must be.
And so what do you think of I'm sure you hear this all the time, but there's this huge debate about, are they more aggressive and do they cause more, I know,
so tiresome.
No, it's not tiresome. I'll do it all day long. I mean, they are wonderful, fabulous dogs. I mean, there's a little bit of history for you. They used to be known as the nanny dog. You know this, Paul?
No.
They used to be known as, and again, this is all subject to being wrong, but because I'm not a right.
That's our show, but that's our show basically. That's the show.
But they used to be called the nanny dog. Apparently, when Lindbergh, back in the early 1900s, when the Lindbergh baby was kidnapped, it's for some reason, because it was such a big story, sort of historically, it set off this sort of nationwide panic about kidnappings. So sort of lower income families would get pit bulls. And so when their kids would be out in the street or, on the front lawn playing, they'd get a pit bull and they'd put it out on the lawn with the dog to sort of, because they are protective, but not, but they're extremely gentle dogs, even to children. I mean, my dog is all my dogs have been fabulous with children. And many dogs can also bite children,
sure.
But not exclusively pit bulls. But the pit bull was sort of this very beloved dog in American culture. And it wasn't sort of this macho, they put spike collars on them and walk them on a chain kind of thing.
When does that happen?
I think there's sort of periods where I remember in the 80s, like Doberman Pinschers were kind of the aggressive dog. And then it became Rottweilers and they kind of became the aggressive dog. And now it's sort of the pit bull's turn to sort of be that, but all those breeds are fabulous,
Yeah.
And interestingly, just to wrap up on the Lindbergh thing, that's why in the Little Rascals, Petey was a pit bull,
Is he?
Oh, yeah, with the little circle around the eye. Yeah. Petey.
Oh, my God, that's amazing. So that the dog is their kind of...
Yeah, that's the dog is sort of their nanny dog to sort of, their
Spanky
protector.
And alfalfa.
Yeah, exactly.
Justin, you have just hit peak Chinwag.
This is peak Chinwag.
Keller also was an owner of pit bulls. She had beloved pit bulls,
and that's because she felt safe with them.
I mean, I don't know. They're very loyal, very gentle, very kind, very attentive, and very alert.
Super interesting.
And if you aim that at, if you raise them to be abusive, or you raise them in an abusive environment, and but you could do the same thing with a golden lab,
you could do it with a cat.
Yeah. Dogs are like sort of domesticated wolves, so they can be super loving and loyal to the family, but then they can be more hostile to whatever they perceive to be outside the family.
They alert. Like my dog will always alert. When someone comes to the door or rings the bell, she woof, 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 and a big run around the house, because, oh my God, someone's coming. And then, of course, the minute the door is up, I haven't trained her to do anything other than lick people and, love them when they get in. So that's what she does when they enter,
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. It's a conundrum. They're probably one of the most overbred dogs, in the country,
because of people wanting to utilize them for fighting and stuff like that.
Yeah, people use them for fighting and I think it's a status symbol in certain parts of the country, and they are strong dogs. But it's sad. They're also the most put to death dog in the country. As far as thousands of them.
Have you always been a dog person?
Yes.
Always a person.
Yes.
Did you grow up with dogs?
Yes. Yeah.
Always with dogs.
Always
do you
with
think
dogs.
that's so interesting to me, the thing of because I've never had a dog. I've always been a little uneasy around dogs.
You always remember there was one dog that bit you.
Yes, there was. There was a fucking dog.
A pit bull that bit you.
Yes, there was.
Completely backtracking. It was a nip. It wasn't like it wasn't Paul getting mauled by a pit bull.
I did get bit by a pit bull once. You remember that. That's very funny. You were with me.
What happened?
Yes.
It jumped on Paul and kind of nipped him, and he was kind of in the arm, I think.
It
you
did.
know, in the forearm. And I remember you kind of going, hey, that dog just fucking bit me. And I was like, yeah. And I was kind of just moving on. Like, but to me, that was sort of like play and whatever.
It's so funny to me that you remember that, Justin. We were
JD was the dog.
That the name of the dog?
I think his name JD. Yeah.
Was it your dog, Justin?
No, it was not Justin's dog.
I was a bartender at this place called Vaughn, which was right on the corner.
Right around the corner from where we lived.
And it was the owner's dog.
That's right. And it hopped up, and I was all like, lucky I had that leather jacket on. It protected my arm from that fucking dog.
Trying to get some sympathy.
And I remember being really outraged. Like, your fucking dog just like...
And you kind of wouldn't drop it. Like, weeks later, you're like, hey, is JD still around? I got bit by it. And I was like, yeah, Paul, that's like... I mean, listen, I was not the most tuned in either.
No, it was not your dog. It was the woman one of the women who worked there. I'm amazed. I'm so happy you remember that. But that place now is, by the way, a really great used bookstore. It's a really great.
It is? It's no longer a bar?
No, I don't think so. Right? It is. It was on what street? It was on
it was on Bleecker and Bowery, right on the corner across from CBGB.
Yeah.
Not on it wasn't directly on the corner. It was in a
No, you're right.
bit.
It was on Bleecker. It's not. I think it is still a bar. Yes, no, you're right. It was on Bleecker. I was thinking it was on Bond, but it was not on Bond.
Yeah.
But I guess I do remember that. No, that's not the kind of thing I would let go of. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, no,
I'm never going to let go of that. In fact, I'm so happy you remember.
I was going to bring it up.
Yeah,
over
now
and
I
over.
still have a beef about it.
Paul slams his laptop shut.
That's it.
Have fun,
That's it for the Chinwag. Fuck you. But I've always had a complicated relationship to dogs and was never raised with them. So I think it's that thing of like, you need to be raised with the thing, I think, sommes to maybe
You're a cat person, right,
I'm
Paul?
a cat person because we always had cats. Yeah. And it's like, we had cats when we knew each other on the Bowery. We had those really great cats.
I was bit by a very big dog, and when I went to the emergency room, it was like a huge English sheepdog, and the only thing that stopped it from going through my arm was I had a big watch on. So it gouged, and I went to the emergency room, and as they're fixing me up, they said, it's much worse to get bit by a cat because the cat's tooth will dislodge into the wound.
That's right, Paul. Do you hear this?
And it's so much worse. So there you go, Paul.
Also, yeah. And also,
you're responsible.
That's
why I'm responsible for all that shit. Yeah. And I guess cats have a lot more nasty shit going on, I guess, in some ways. I shouldn't be saying this. I'm a cat person. That's the whole schizophrenia cat thing.
I love cats. But we've got to end cat fighting, I think is what we're... Is that the upshot at the end of this conversation?
Yes, that's where we're going.
Underground cat fighting has got to stop in this country. It's cruel to the animal, and it's cruel
you know what
God.
You know what I bet? I think there were cultures where they did. We had a cat for a while.
Here we go. Hold on. Let me get my Google out. All right, go ahead. Cultures that do cat fighting.
Okay. No, hold on. Yes, this is good. We had a cat. I had cousins that lived in Japan for a while.
Here we go.
No, I'm serious. And because they knew we were really into cats, they secured us a cat from Thailand, which is a Thai breed of cat called a korat, a Korat. And evidently, these cats were at one time used as kind of guard cats, like you would in like royal households or like the kind of wealthier households. You'd have they were big.
Big.
It got big, and it was a big cat, and it was very aggressive. And it was so aggressive we could never have it around the other cats. We had to kind of keep it away from the other cats as much as possible. And very aggressive with people. He was not terribly friendly. And that I guess the idea was you'd take one of these cats and just throw it at somebody, I guess, if they were like coming after you. I suppose you would kind of hurl it at a person to just see what would happen.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like how you never see a cat, that's not like a normal trope of like, cats attacking burglars or I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it's not.
No, but like ancient Egypt, weren't they revered and sort of?
They were revered, I think. Yes, I think different cultures
have
treated. Yes, they've treated them in different levels of reverence.
In Beijing, I was there and I went to a coffee shop and they were like, "This is the coffee where the cat, I think it's a civet cat, eats the coffee beans and then it poops and they make the coffee from the cat poop."
Oh, it sounds delicious.
It's expensive. I did not try it.
It sounds delicious. That's like that. I've also spent time in China, and there's a delicacy of bird's nest soup,
Yes.
But you think, oh, that's sort of a poetic name for a soup. And then you realize, no, it's just literally the fucking bird's nest dropped into hot water. And the delicacy part of it is all the sort of mucus that the bird used to make the nest is sort of steeped into the broth.
All the adhesive mucus.
Yeah, so all the adhesive mucus is then, and then you get to,
really?
you're the lucky person that gets to slurp it up.
How does it taste? Is it good?
It tastes like bird spit. No, it's actually kind of, it's kind of bland, actually. Because I think they want you to really taste the spit, so they don't add much to it.
Now, you're reminding me of something. You did spend time in China, and you did. Do you speak the language? I don't remember. You
poorly
do
now. Yeah. It's just kind of a party trick now. It's like all languages. I haven't been there in a long time, and the first thing to sort of fall off is your vocabulary. So you start to. I was pretty facile at one point,
Was it for a movie or just you were interested in the culture?
No, it was like early in life before I'd really started my career or anything like that. I sort of became obsessed with it and spent time there. And I worked in bars in Taiwan,
Taipei,
I remember.
Beijing. I completely forgot about all this, Justin. That's right.
And did mirror. I probably did a total of about a couple of years there,
Wow.
And did you study it in college, the language?
I studied the language for like a couple terms in college, and then just did sort of immersive language learning once I was there.
I'm remembering all of the. I mean, it's not that I forgot, but I'm remembering that do you still continue to draw and paint and do your art? And
I keep like a sketchbook. Again, I'm not like not as much. I think did I give you?
You gave me a remarkable drawing painting of Edgar Allan Poe that I still have somewhere. You gave me an amazing.
I don't even remember that
portrait of this crazy sort of kind of creepy, uncanny sort of portrait of Edgar Allan Poe that was partially sort of skeletal and stuff like that. I have that, and for years. Outside my apartment in the Bowery, I don't know if you remember this, we had this big wooden cutout of a kind of Bond girl in a sort of skin and a sort of wetsuit with her mask up on her head with a spear gun. That you had painted. And it was fantastic. Wow. It was huge.
Yeah. I used to do these like installations at like clubs and restaurants or these sort of big sort of like anime style. I would do these murals and they were sort of 3D. Like I would do a background of the mural on the wall, and then I would do these sort of pop out wooden. They were just cutouts, it was sort of like collagey. It
was fantastic.
Cool.
Was it like sort of spray paint or acrylic? Like what was the medium?
It was sort of like spray paint, ink, and paint. I guess
Yes, that was sort of a combination of things.
Sort of comic book style, I guess.
It was. It was very graphic.
Sort of anime.
Yep. It was a little anime. It was a little Hanna-Barbera too, even kind of very strong like visual of this woman with a spear gun. And it was fantastic. We had it outside our apartment for years.
I'd love to see a picture of that.
I wonder if somewhere I do have one. I'll see if I can track it down.
And Paul draws. Paul,
I do, but I never drew.
You're an incredible.
No.
Yeah, you are. I remember you used to do pages and pages of sort of caricature doodles, not caricature like you get done at Disneyland. No, they're.
I did faces. I always drew weird, grotesque faces because that was all I could basically do. I draw a nose and then I would draw everything around.
They were great though. I remember them.
No, I enjoyed it. Did you do graffiti art stuff too? Did you?
Yeah, but not like right. I wasn't out there bombing trains or anything like that. I wasn't that. Yeah. Yes, I did do, but not. I would go between like. I mean, I was a art major, a double major, drama and visual art in college, and so I did. I sort of. Yeah, I did. But I was a drawing major. If that's such a thing.
Do you think that creative people, like you guys are actors? I draw too, but I'm not an actor. But I just notice a lot of people who are actors also in either they make music or they draw. And I'm just wondering, is like creativity something that just looks for any kind of outlet? Because it doesn't seem dedicated to one specific thing. It seems to like flood into all these other areas.
I can never tell whether it's an absolute inability to do anything else, meaning like, and I'm not being cute even, I'm just saying like, I couldn't do, I mean, I bombed out of every other fucking subject, so hard, particularly math and, and things like that. So, classes that I was excelling in, and thankfully, my mother sort of encouraged it, was things like art and drama and, the places where, the things you can't sort of test for,
Do you think, though, that actors particularly need other outlets because by nature acting is hard to, it's
hard to secure.
You don't do it all the time. You can't.
It's the one. Yeah.
I can't. Yeah. It's the one I can't. So I always feel like actors need these other outlets because it's hard to secure.
You have to. Otherwise, I think you go nuts. It's the only, I'm trying to think of other, other artistic endeavors. Painting, you can do at home.
Yeah.
Playing violin, you can do at home.
You can do
acting,
all of
you
them.
really need permission from someone else to do it, and you need an ensemble.
And you need other people. Yeah.
Yeah.
You need other people. And even then, even if you're a monologuist, it's like at a certain point, it's like.
Yeah, you're not going to sit there and do it in your living room at home alone,
Yeah. At a certain point, you need another outlet. You need something else to keep yourself engaged and stuff like that. I frequently think I don't have enough outlets like that. I need more outlets.
As is evidenced by the wall to your left.
Yes.
You were always a voracious reader, and I used to marvel. Me and Paul did a play together a long time ago. And I remember you'd go like at not intermission, like between the matinee and the whatever.
Intermission,
you'd go to like a bookstore up in Times Square, and then you'd come back and you'd have like 7 books, and I'd be like,
I know.
That's my reading for 3 years. And you'd be like,
I know.
And then you're like, I read that one. And then the next day you'd be like, yeah, I read the one that I showed you. And I'd be like, what?
He's a fiend.
I was dyslexic. So I like reading a book like the way Paul reads, like it was a Herculean task. It's never not felt like homework for me. Like,
yeah, I remember that.
I have trouble reading books.
Do you have trouble with lines and stuff like that because of that? I've known that people have said sometimes that makes it difficult, but you never seem to have any problem with lines.
No, because as long as I have time to rehearse lines,
right?
Sometimes I can feel a little daunted if I have a bunch of scripts that I have to read. I'm like, oh, I can feel like I have to, put myself in ice water to read them. But no, it's not. And also like scripts are different than books for me. They, because the way they're structured, even on the page, it's just a simpler, it's interior living room night, and then it's so and so enters a room, and then the musicality of dialogue. If books were just that, I'd think, meaning like I love books that have a lot of dialogue in them, or lots of conversational sections to them. It's when I still have sort of PTSD of seeing dense paragraphs,
Hegel,
or like Updike or something, and you're like, I can't.
Right. Oh God. Oh God, Updike nightmares. Yeah, it's just exactly. Like Updike trauma.
And I would just get lost in literally just visually lost in paragraphs. So I'd just be like, I can't do this. Like this is impossible.
Well, I'm a professor, and I always my son is like, I hate reading. He's like, I can't stand reading. And I always felt for the longest time, I'm like, isn't this sad, But over the last few years, I've come to realize we had these conversations about philosophy or politics or whatever, and you can get access to all that information. It doesn't have to be the printed written word. There's a kind of almost like a prejudice about that, that we don't need to have anymore, especially now.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, it's like listening to authors read their work. I love it.
Yeah.
It's because, yes, I also like to use my own imagination when I'm reading things, or particularly scripts and kind of interpreting roles or whatever. But like when you hear an author read their stuff, if they're good at it, or if they really dedicate a little time to not performing it, but they know better than anybody what it's supposed to sound like to them. And it's like, I love podcasts. I love, I listen to a lot of auditory stuff.
Interesting. I think I have a hard time getting the information that way. I think I still need to have that weird engagement with whatever's happening between the printed page and my brain.
Yeah.
Or it's just that I'm just an asshole who's not very good at listening to people, which is really very
true.
Possible.
Try having a podcast with this guy.
You can definitely get more distracted,
Yes.
And there's a dedicated, when you're looking at a page, and I do read. It's not like I'm, whatever, but it's just not, it's not something I go, oh, I can't wait to tuck into that book.
Do you meditate? Are you a meditator? Are you a person who does that kind of thing?
I'm an imperfect meditator. Yeah. I like to meditate. I've been lately because I think like everybody, or the entire planet, I suffer from anxiety and low grade. And so I have periodically throughout my life, and currently in the last couple of years, been rededicating myself to that sort of meditation, mindfulness. I've been listening to many podcasts on that subject, but also really trying to. I'm really like, I don't understand. I mean, it's like all of us. I don't really understand certain concepts that are difficult to grasp in that sort of Zen way. Things like mindfulness, gratitude, those things that we all should be reminding ourselves of every day, or at least dedicating a little time to. Obviously, these telephones make it 5,000 times worse than taking us out of our bodies in the present. And so I have been trying to meditate more, even if it's just, or breath work, or just trying to do things. I mean, I don't think I'm unique in that, we all have those moments just in life where you're just not quite in your body, and you're not quite interacting in the way that feels seamless with the world and people. And again, I don't know if that's phones or post-COVID or whatever, but yeah, I try and have some kind of a practice every day, imperfectly.
And did you ever, and I hear you say that about like some of it's tricky to sort of grasp, the Zen, the concept stuff of those kinds of particular schools and stuff. Do you follow any particular thing like that? Or is it just a kind of,
no,
you found a kind of,
I did do quite a bit of TM for a moment. Transcendental medication, transcendental meditation.
Same thing.
I did a lot of transcendental medication. I did a lot of that, and that didn't work.
Exactly. As prescribed, of course. Doctor supervision. But it's not like I wake up every morning. I wish it was, and I make myself a Darjeeling tea, and it's not that. Right. It is. I think it's even as simple as just sort of the reminder to feel the present. Past, it's that whole thing of like, we spend most of our lives living in, the near or distant past, or the near and distant future. Whether that's worrying about things that are completely out of our control, like death and or just tomorrow, or the wreckage of the future. And because we're animals, we're sort of trained to sort of ward off things that we think are dangerous to ourselves and our well-being. And that's, I think, for the luxury of contemporary modern life, is that many of us are fortunate to not have to worry about shelter or food or the things that you would normally worry about if you were thousands of years ago. And so I find that you worry about sort of intellectual conundrums and things that could happen, or possibilities which are largely inaccurate. So anything to prevent that kind of future forward-thinking anxiety,
or lingering over things too.
Or perseverating on things, and the
negative ruminations.
Negative rumination and
perseverating. Such a great word.
It really is.
Yeah, I know. Like such
perseveration, and you can find yourself. It's just a miracle. I mean, not a miracle. It's just astounding how you can find yourself subconsciously perseverating through a voice that is your own, but not your own, for hours before you go like, holy fuck, I've just written a whole script for myself that sucks.
Oh my God. Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
I just spent 2 fucking hours.
I just made a movie in my head.
Totally.
It is the worst story in the world.
Totally.
And now I'm living in it.
Did I know that I wasn't doing this at the time that we knew each other, but I did. Have you ever done like flotation tank stuff? And I'm always talking about this, by the way.
Oh, okay. I have done. Yeah.
And the thing that I remember being astonished by when I first did it was how, they talk about the Zen monks talk about the mad monkey of the mind, this kind of just
the
like
monkey brain,
and cutting out all of any kind of external stimuli. So there's nothing coming in. There's no data coming in. There's no reason for me. And my mind would go bonkers and begin to dig into the past in the most bizarre, literally just picking up any object it could find in the past. And I would go, why the fuck am I thinking about this kid that I knew in the 3rd grade who got, hit by a bike one day? And I'm like, why the fuck? Because it just wanted to go to anything it could possibly do.
Yeah, it's trying to, I think it's almost like holding your breath, or like a mental holding your breath, where it's like, it starts to panic a little bit and go like, I can't breathe in this. I need something coming in.
I need stimuli of some kind. I need to be stimulated in some way.
Well, that's like Justin was saying, that's what like we evolved, our brains evolved to do this kind of problem solving. And then when your life is relatively comfortable or safe, it has nothing to work on except stupid shit. And so like the imagination is just like constantly concocting these movies, like you're saying in your head.
Yeah.
But I don't like in mindful meditation, like you shut off all of that stuff or to the extent you can. But also I think like what troubles me about meditation is I like the imagination. Like I don't want to stop it. I don't want, but I guess maybe we're just talking about getting a breather, a little vacation or something.
It is kind of like that. It's about finding like a stasis. The present is the simplest concept in the world because we're all in it. But it's also the most complex because it's so hard to stay in it, I think that's what meditation is giving yourself. And, of course, when you study any kind of meditation, they say, oh, that, it's actually, because most people give up on meditation. They go like, I can't focus. It's too hard. I think, or I'm thinking about something else. And that is also the meditation.
That's the idea. Right.
You're supposed to recognize the fact that your brain has gone somewhere else. And then you're sort of supposed to gently pull it back to whatever it is, your mantra, the present, just your breath. Like breath work for some reason feels really beneficial to me more than just a mantra because there's something rhythmic and natural about it. Our heartbeats.
100%. I find that just simply breathing is unbelievably effective.
It's also like a hilarious thing in the world, because it's something we do reflexively anyway.
I know.
But we do until the mind intervenes and we stop breathing or we stop breathing properly or whatever. Not even properly. We just stop fucking breathing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How often you're not breathing and how often you're fucking up your own kind of ability to breathe. It's like constantly you're doing it. It's interesting, I have a friend who's always, she sort of says the same thing about psychoanalysis and or psychotherapeutic stuff and then meditation and things like this. And she's an actor, and it's like, but if I'm ridding myself of all this anxiety, aren't I going to lose all of these sorts of like motivators and all the fire that makes me like the actor? If I'm getting rid of all that stuff, and I constantly say to this person, I've benefited. In fact, the ability to calm my mind then allows me to actually more greatly do what I have to do.
If you live in this sort of cacophony of noise and just sort of just going from one either sort of stimula or pleasure or whatever to the next, your adrenals just give out. You can't sustain that. Whether it's then you're just ice cream now movie now podcast now. So you can't, and it eliminates the ability to have a clear, cohesive thought. I mean, David Lynch famously is like the guy who.
I was going to say, did you get onto TM from him? Yeah,
he was the one who sort of turned me on to it, and I think we can all agree that there's no lack of creativity from this man.
God.
He meditates religiously twice a day for 20 minutes. He's talked about it. I mean, I don't need to quote him or anything. He's very public about it and about the benefits of it to particularly his creativity, and that many times ideas for his films come out of the meditations and the imagery. And I've had that where I've meditated. And I've never had there's no sort of nothing particularly profound, but I have had intense along the lines of, deprivation tanks and things like that, intense visual things that come to me very well articulated, almost like it's like an AI that's happening on my eyelids, where it's like a reptile that's morphing into a man's face, just weird things, but I'm seeing full three-dimensional, sort of things that don't exist anywhere other than, from behind my eyeballs.
That's a big difference between the sort of Tibetan, the Vajrayana Buddhism versus that, like the Theravada Buddhism. In the Theravada stuff, it's like cleanse your mind of all imagery. It's like the Protestantism of Buddhism. But then the Tibetans are like, no, like indulge those visual, imaginative creatures that are coming. And so you see in the art, like in Tibetan art, there are these incredible, fantastic creatures.
Monsters,
monsters and Buddha soldiers.
Isn't there even a tradition in Tibetan Buddhism where there's a kind of discipline where you actually you create a sort of entity in your mind that you begin to communicate with, that is a kind of, it's a sort of divine entity, and you begin to sort of, over time, it begins to fill out, and you begin to communicate with this entity that you've created imaginatively, or whatever it is, wherever it's right? Tulpa, that's what it's called. Yep. Yeah, right. And so you have this thing that exists outside of you that you communicate with. But it is really cool to think that, because I remember, again, when I went and did this meditation retreat with these Zen monks one time, and they were talking about, it was Woodstock. There's a place called Fire Lotus or something like that.
Was it like a silent retreat kind of thing?
It was. No, it was not. Was it silent? No, it was not silent, because people were yakking away, believe me.
Just cacophonous yelling, screaming at each other.
Yakking away.
It was actually, people were encouraged to scream at each other.
Exactly.
That would be amazing.
The screaming monks of Woodstock. It's a very special place.
No one would shut the fuck up the entire time.
They're called the Shrieking Monkey Mind Monks of Woodstock.
Yes, totally. No, it was not silent. There were silent ones, but it was, but I remember these guys talking about, and I thought, oh, how interesting. It is like the deprivation tank, that they would achieve these points of kind of what we would call maybe hallucination or things like that. But they would say some of the deepest, most profound stuff they had was this kind of thing, where they were going into almost other dimensions and stuff like that. Yeah. So it was like, really, really wild like that.
Uma Thurman's dad is Robert.
He's wonderful.
Thurman.
Yeah, I've heard him speak.
I've never met him.
Yeah,
he's a Buddhist. I've never met him either. I've just seen him.
I interviewed him once. He's awesome.
It's on YouTube. There's like a great documentary which he's heavily featured in. I think it's like narrated by Richard Gere, and it's basically just like, it's sort of like a old school biopic or biodoc about Siddhartha, Buddha. He was born, he was rich, he had all the pleasures, then he discovered old age, sickness, and death. He wanted to explore. He went out of it, but it's sort of a I guess a beginner's guide to Buddhism, because I was like, we know large swaths of the Bible, obviously the Quran, blah, blah. But I was like, Buddhism, I don't really know the sort of origin story. And so I found this YouTube that he's in, and he's very insightful. Oh,
interesting. Yeah, I vaguely know about it.
He was actually ordained, I think, by the Dalai Lama or something like that. He is a monk of some kind.
Robert Thurman was? Yeah, I think he probably is. Was it Richard Gere? Didn't Richard Gere get ordained?
He's a Buddhist.
Oh, did he?
Totally. Yeah, I think so. I think he did. I mean, I know a guy. Do you remember the actor Michael O'Keefe? Remember him? He's really terrific. Yeah, he was in Great Santini. He's been in so many things.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But he was famous, in that, and he's still big. But he's a Zen priest. He's been ordained a Zen priest, I believe, and they can be married and be in relationships and stuff like that. So it sounds like a good deal being a Zen priest. It sounds like not too bad. It's interesting, because I was thinking about, just as you were saying this, about the past, present, future, like that kind of thing. It's amazing to me to think, I just was seeing somewhere, I can't remember where this was, somebody talking about those groups and cultures where, and there's a couple of them in the world, and I think they're in South America, and they're indigenous peoples who have no concept of time in that way. There's no past, there's no present, right? Steve, am I right about this? That there's some cultures where they don't have that concept.
I know there's some cultures in South America that don't have any speech terms that refer to the past.
Like past tense.
That's what it is.
Maybe they don't have a sense of time.
We got to go there, guys, and teach them about the past.
Yes.
I think they're probably learning.
We got to get them worrying.
Yeah, I think.
Because if there's people out there that aren't worried about the past or the future,
something tells me.
That ain't right.
We must colonize that place.
Something tells me people are teaching them to believe me. People are down there forcing it on them.
It's like when you hear about evangelicals that will go there, they wanted to find the most distant tribes so that they could bring them
they get stabbed to death or something.
Yeah, there's that one in India. What's the one
the Sentinel Islands? The Sentinel Islands.
No, there was some proselytizing evangelical that went there and got
he went to the Sentinel Islands and they killed him. And he was trying to go there, and he had to give them Bibles and stuff like that. And it's the most isolated community in the world.
It's protected as well, I think.
Yes, it is.
Protected community.
Yes, it is.
Like the Indian government sort of just says it's a no-go zone. We want to.
They know nothing about them or how many people are there or anything like that. And
I mean, that's a really tricky thing, because you want to preserve the culture. On the other hand, are you
You want to give them
like
phones.
we have all this, well, not phones, okay, not phones, no, but like antibiotics and like medicine
but if they're
and
not,
shit.
They need flaming hot
Cheetos. It's like flaming hot Cheetos and diabetes and
that's what they need.
Dressing. Think about that your whole life.
Ranch. Did you say ranch dressing? Jesus Christ! That's
those
horrible.
Poor bastards.
Horrible.
Imagine living your entire life without ever having a Dorito dust.
I shot at diabetes. It is interesting. What do you do? That is interesting. I mean, do you leave them alone to live in that? I mean, it's fascinating.
I think you leave them alone.
You leave them the fuck alone. Absolutely. You leave them the fuck alone.
I mean, if they're starving, although, like, what's the Easter Island? Or no one knows really what happened to them. Wasn't that
true?
They deforest? I'm no expert on Easter Island, but that's
really
passive.
That's why we had you on
let's
here.
Cut that part out. Go. Well, I haven't told you that I'm an expert on Easter Island. And famously, but wasn't that like no one really knows what happened to them? And the operating theory is that they sort of deforested the land to such an extent, and the population grew. It was sort of a microcosm of population getting out of control, and that I don't know. I mean,
I think you're right. And they vanished.
Yeah, when we found it, or whoever found it, there were these sort of enormous, sculptural faces facing one direction that no one knew what happened to them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I think that's right. I think a similar thing with the Mayans, maybe. I think is a kind of similar thing.
Yeah, I was just down in the Yucatan, and I was like,
really?
It's very, very scant knowledge about, they left all kinds of obviously temples and cities behind, but it's not like the Egyptians where we've got the what is it? What's the Rosetta Stone to sort of crack
the Rosetta Stone? That's sort of crack.
Yeah, there's no. It's like, well, it could be snakes were worshipped. It could be snakes were.
Oh, really?
Ancient aliens, man.
It's aliens, dude. It's always
aliens.
But I always was under the impression somebody did crack the Mayan code. Did they not? Or not sufficiently?
Yes. I think there's enormous amounts of stuff that they do know, but it's not as as well articulated as the hieroglyphs, or of Egypt, where you can actually sort of read stuff.
I think those Easter Island statues go underground. I think
they do.
I think that
they do.
It's not just the head,
love that
right?
kind of stuff. No, I think there's, and again, that's another sort of little rabbit hole to go down, which is like, how did they erect them? How did they drag them from here to there? Were they meant to be buried? Did they, over time sort of start slowly sinking into the earth? And they've, there's always like those weird BBC shows where they're like, we erected a replica of the Easter Island, where there's guys with just the tools that they would have had available to them at the time. It's like guys, putting straw together to try and build a winch that, but the logs, I don't know. Rolling them
totally.
logs.
No, fascinating. That's interesting. I'd never heard that. Have you been there? Have you gone down there?
No, it's you can't just accident. It's like Marfa. You can't just stumble across it. You really have to make it a point to get there.
I know a guy who went down there. I know a guy who made a concerted, he went to Easter Island.
You can book a tour of some kind.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's like, what is it? You have to leave, depart from Chile, and then there's a boat ride.
I think that's right. I think it's always in a place that I don't realize it's in. I always think it's further.
Yeah, I always think it's like
west in the South
Polynesia
Pacific. No, it's not. It's interesting. It's like right off the coast of Chile.
That's the one that I've actually nerded out on before, the Hawaiian Islands, which you think, how did people or anything get here?
I know.
Well, and when I've spent time there, I remember here, and again, I don't know if this is true or not, but like just the incredible, everything that got to Hawaii prior to obviously airplanes and boats and all the rest of it had to basically blow there. So if you're like a plant,
yes,
it had to essentially go on the trade winds from Thailand or wherever, or Polynesia, to blow all the way across. And then hundreds of thousands of years of like a bird who would, blow over there, and then multiples of birds that would blow over there and die because there would never be a mate. And then there would have to be this miraculous thing that would happen where two birds of the same thing would somehow miraculously land at this little speck in the middle of the ocean in order to start populating this place. And now, of course, it's, like Kauai is like Eden, and there's so many different species of animals and lizards and bugs and plants and
crazy
fauna and flora, and you kind of go like, God, it all had to get here somehow,
And the original peoples too, they must have come
master navigators,
outriggers and shit. Yeah.
No, apparently they're just insane. And those outriggers like that, they're not even. I mean, they're really. They're not they're pretty huge sketchy. Boats, and they're and they're just
the Rapa Nui or the
is it the Kontiki and all that stuff?
Oh yeah, Kontiki. Rapa Nui's Alaska.
Yeah.
No, what
is that? No, I don't. I think Rapa Nui might be Easter Island.
Yeah. Is it?
I think Rapa Nui might be. We're going to get letters definitely from people. We're going to be like,
it'll
what
straighten it out.
Paul and Justin are wrong about absolutely fucking everything they talked about.
Thanks a lot for
talk about vaccines.
Totally, just butchering all just the whole history of Oceania, Micronesia, all of it, just butchering.
Exactly.
It. Holy shit, guys!
Wow, we just unlocked it all, didn't we?
We really did.
Let's just go. Let's just do a quick little. We did Buddhism, the present, meditation, mindful. Guys, we're amazing. We really kind of unwound all of Hawaiian history, but in a really
did completely wrongly. We completely fucked it up.
Wrong-headed
way. Just everything, just backing the truck up the wrong way, just everything. But there we go.
Guys, we should teach a class on this.
What would
this class be called?
Chinwaggin 101.
But it's a little like the wagon is like it's like a little chin with like a little old westerny wagon, like a wagon wheel.
Little covered wagon, just moving.
A little covered wagon,
absolutely.
Yeah. Chinwaggin, come on in.
That's pretty good. Come down to the Chinwaggin. Thank you for being here. We'll meet you here in a few days with a bonus wag for your listening pleasure. So until then, wag on, friends. Wag on.
Chinwag is a production of Treefort Media and Touchy Feely Films, hosted and executive produced by Paul Giamatti and Stephen Asma. Executive producers for Treefort are Kelly Garner and Lisa Ammerman. Dan Carey is executive producer for Touchy Feely. Our series producer is Rachel Whitley Bernstein. Original theme music by Luke Top, with additional music by Via Mardot. Oscar Guido is our executive in charge of production. Tom Monahan is head of audio for Treefort. Audio production supervision by Matt Dyson. Editing and mixing by Jeff Neal. Animation created by Alex Sokol. Research assistance by Aidan Brooks. Lastly, for more information, go to chinwagpod.fm and find us on Instagram or TikTok at chinwagpod or on Twitter at chinwag_pod.